Bahrain Grand Prix. It's a relatively new addition to the Formula 1 calendar, with its first race being held in 2004. In that, it made history as the first Formula 1 Grand Prix to be held in the Middle East, and was even given an award by the FIA for being the best organized Grand Prix. In addition to this, it features a combination of high-speed straights and tight corners, which makes it fun but equally challenging course for the drivers. It's known to be a track that Mercedes, Ferrari, and Red Bull have history doing well at, with Mercedes winning 6 of the past 8 races, and Lewis Hamilton, Sebastian Vettel, and Fernando Alonso being winners, just to name a few. Hey guys, how are you guys doing? Hope all is going well. It is Saturday night. Big day is tomorrow. I was out with my wife and my cousin and his fiance today, so I was not able to catch qualifying or practices. However, I was keeping up with it online, and I did get a chance to watch the highlight video on YouTube, and was pretty telling on what we're going to expect for tomorrow. And so I'll go ahead and throw up the starting grid on the screen. But what I'm seeing really is nothing that's too surprising. We all knew that Red Bull was going to be fast. We all know Mercedes is going to be fast. We all knew Ferrari was going to be fast. I think the one, I guess, surprise, or somebody who's maybe reaching or beating the expectations, would be Aston Martin. I think that there's somebody that at least I didn't have on my radar, and I'm seeing a lot of people on Twitter say the same. And so it's pretty cool to see them up there. Fernando Alonso is a familiar face on my end, since he ran the Indy 500. Attempted to one year and ran it the other year, so I do know a little bit about him. But that's cool to see. Looks like Pierre Gasly was struggling a little bit, and some of the other teams just kind of filtering in. But really the narrative I'm catching here is that the 3 juggernauts are making themselves known early in the season with the first race. And usually I would throw some sort of prediction here during this time as the race is tomorrow. And so I would say, watch out for Red Bull, I guess, right? I don't think that's a very bold prediction. I think Max Verstappen's the defending champ. I think Sergio Perez is a great driver as well. They got good engineers, they got good data, and I think they're going to do very well tomorrow. Be on the lookout for Aston Martin. They may be in the mix as well, but I'm not going to make a bold prediction or anything this time around. It's race day. I'm pretty excited. I'm not the biggest morning person. This isn't that early in the morning. I mean, 9 a.m. is not that bad. But looking at the schedule, I'm starting to realize that there might be some really early mornings. And you know what? You gotta embrace it. You gotta embrace it. So I'm ready to go. And let me get the pre-race on here.
It's lights out, and away we go. Verstappen gets away well, as does Charles Leclerc. Perez is trying to cover him off, but he might be a bit too late. There might have been contact there as well. Carlos Sainz loses out.
All right, Ryan, what's going on?
Well, Lando Norris is having some engine issues. Naturally, the team I pick is having a lot of issues, but it's pretty much top 3 teams. We got Mercedes, we got Ferrari, we got Red Bull, and then Aston Martin's mixing in there as well. So we'll see how it kind of plays out. Looks like Verstappen's pulling away a little bit though. Now, Piastri has to change the steering wheel. I feel like McLaren's just having a bunch of bad luck, and if it's my fault, if it's my fault because I just joined to be a McLaren fan like a few days ago, I'm sorry, McLaren fans, okay? It's all my fault. You blame me this time around. Looks like Piastri has a gearbox issue and some issues on track. So now the McLaren's other car is just going in the pits. So now we just got Lando Norris, I guess. I don't know. So hopefully he can make a comeback. Lando Norris is coming in again? What is happening, bro? What is happening? I know I said I was rooting for McLaren, but it's really hard not to root for Fernando Alonso. He's climbing up right now, battling with the best of them. It's kind of like Alonso versus the world right now, and I love to see it. Let's see how the finish happens. Leclerc, we got a yellow. I mean, obviously you don't want to see anybody go down, but this switches things up a little bit. I'm excited to see what happens. My first experience with the yellow in F1, so we'll see how it may differ from other series. Wow.
And the world champion picking up where he left off in Abu Dhabi. Max Verstappen wins the Bahrain Grand Prix, and he wins it by a long, long way.
Well, that was a really good first race, and we're going to break it down here shortly. However, I first have a race to watch on top of this race, being the IndyCar race at St. Petersburg. Their first race of the season is here today as well, here coming up in a few minutes. And so I'm kind of doing the double today, 2 races in a day. And I think that's probably what's going to happen moving forward. And so it's going to be a little challenging. It's a lot of racing in one day, but you know what? I'm here for it and I'm excited. So I'll get back with you here in a couple hours. So I gathered you guys both here to just have a talk. I'm going to be getting into F1.
What?
I mean, we can make it work with both of you guys at the same time.
No,
I mean,
no.
Hey, babe,
no.
that's not what it looks like. That's
No.
That's not what I meant by getting into F1. Babe. Hey guys, so you might have been able to see I did take a ton of notes, 2 pages of notes actually, on the race. So I was really trying to soak up as much as I could, it being my first Formula 1 race. And so I'm going to talk here kind of about a breakdown about what happened with the race and my thoughts about it. So let's get into it. First, let's talk about the broadcast. And so from the broadcast, immediately I'm recognizing it's very clean cut, very good showing. Announcing is very good. Commentary is good, at least. And I'm also noticing no commercials the whole race, which is unheard of. I watched the Daytona 500 a couple weeks back, and unreal amount of commercials. People were complaining all over Twitter. And then you have this Formula 1 series where there's no commercials. They're not interrupting the race even when there's a yellow or anything along those lines. And so I found that to be very refreshing. I also thought that Bahrain was beautiful. I thought the track was very nice, nice Ferris wheel in the background. So overall, I think the broadcast was really refreshing and cool. And so, yeah, let's now break down a little bit more about some things I noticed. So right off the bat, I noticed that the cars are in a stationary position in the beginning of the race, and they start the race from something known as a stop start. And so that's contrary to IndyCar and NASCAR, in which there's a rolling start, in which the cars are moving as they come across the start line, and that's how they start the race. And so it was more of a Mario Kart-esque kind of start for Formula 1, which is just going to take some getting used to. But honestly, I think it went fine. I was a little concerned that there wouldn't be much passing, or they wouldn't be able to maybe gain as much ground, but I feel like there was a good mix in the beginning of the race going into turn 1. And I feel like for a lot of cars, that's their best opportunity to gain positions, especially some of the cars in the back. But I thought the start was really good. Sparks were flying everywhere. And then once things kind of sorted out, I found that the pecking order was pretty prevalent and really easily identifiable to see, okay, Red Bull's at the top. Then you got Ferrari. Then you got Mercedes. And so I think that's kind of my opinion on the start. But it was pretty exciting, really cool start to the race. Another thing to add about the start of the race was some contact. There was quite a bit of contact among the drivers, notably Fernando Alonso and Stroll. And so Stroll got into Alonso, and if you don't know, they are teammates. And so Alonso immediately is like over the radio, who got into me, they should get punished, la la. And they were not telling Alonso that it was his teammate. And I think that was maybe a good choice to keep him level-headed, and it ended up working out for him. But your teammates, bro, you gotta be smarter than that. And so something I noticed was a lot of debris coming off of Fernando Alonso's car, and immediately they thought he had a puncture of some sort, and fortunately he didn't. But that's just something I wanted to note, that there was quite a bit of contact in the beginning, and they didn't throw the yellow either. I mean, a lot of times, any sort of debris, some series are super eager to throw the yellow, and I appreciated that, even though that wasn't that much debris, that F1 didn't choose that route. About 10 to 15 laps in, you saw quite a few cars trying to go for the undercut strategy, where they pit early and try to come out of the pits ahead of their peers. And so you could see Gasly and a lot of the people in the middle to the back of the field trying this strategy, as they knew that they didn't have the outright pace to maybe keep with the big boys. And so that was something I saw pretty early on, trying to go for the undercut strategy. And yeah. Next players to talk about is McLaren. I'm sorry. You guys saw from the videos when I was watching the race, I was pretty bummed, okay? I know some of you guys have been McLaren fans way longer than I have, but for me, only a few days. But that was like just having huge issues, okay? Firstly, I have marked on here that Piastri had to go into the pits and had to switch out his steering wheel. And then we kind of go down. Oh, now Piastri's out. Okay, and then now Lando's coming in, and Lando's coming in again. And it just seemed like they could never get anything right. And so I found that very frustrating as a fan. I was like, man, these guys are supposed to be generally in the mix, and they totally weren't. And so that was frustrating, kind of an epic fail on their end. Both of their cars not really performing up to par this first week. Something I heard the broadcast discuss quite a bit was tire management. Early on in the race, they discussed how Red Bull didn't really have the tires based on their qualifications and how they used their tires in that time period. However, you heard pretty early on in the race them discuss hard tires, medium tires, and soft tires. And so those are the three options that the drivers had. And so based on what the broadcast said, you had to at least use 2 of the 3 tires throughout the race, and at least 1 spec tire in that. And so you just heard over the radio a ton about how people were losing tires, they were losing grip. And so part of the reason why people may have pitted earlier was because of tires as well as the undercut, as I discussed. But Verstappen in particular was over the radio saying, hey, even though he was pulling away in the field like completely, he still was struggling with tires. And so over the radio, they're like, yeah, you know, like go to strategy 8. And I'm sure Red Bull has 1,001 different numbers they use for how many strategies they have, because they're just like that. But I found that a little bit comical. However, tires played a huge role in this race, and you even saw how Alonso was using this to his advantage and how he was pressuring drivers to use their tires. And so you even saw Hamilton not able to necessarily defend as he needed to, because, as he said over the radio, I won't be able to make it to the end of the race if I defend as hard as I can. And so definitely tires were prevalent in this race in particular. I want to mention Ferrari because they're one of the bigger teams in the series. And early in the race, it was like Red Bull, Ferrari, and they were kind of staggered. And then Red Bull just kind of pulled away, right? And then it felt like Aston Martin and Mercedes were slowly catching up to Ferrari throughout the race. And I felt like Sainz was dealing with some porpoising, as he mentioned over the radio, and we kind of discussed that in the last episode. And then it looked like Leclerc had a yellow. He had an engine issue. And so while I'm on Ferrari, let's talk about yellows. Let's talk about what that is and how it may be different in this series. And so from my experience, when there is a yellow thrown, they restart the race. Not the laps, but they do a restart. And so F1 doesn't do that. They have a virtual safety car, per se. And so they keep the drivers at 40% of their speed. And they basically maintain the spacing among the drivers until they clean up the wreck. And then they're able to just continue the race from there. And I found that pretty interesting. And definitely, I was kind of hoping for a yellow. Obviously, I didn't want anybody to get hurt, but I was hoping that there was a yellow just to kind of mix it up, but also for me to observe how it may differ from other series. And so I found that to be interesting. And so kind of a tough day for Ferrari, definitely maybe not what they're hoping for and having engine issues, but I definitely felt that the yellow was definitely something worth noting. Next, I'd like to mention Fernando Alonso. Man, this dude just had a heck of a drive. And it's super cool to see. I have experience with him in IndyCar, but also he's just an older driver. He's a veteran driver. He's 42 years old, I think, something like that. And so he's seen a lot of success in many different types of series. But a lot of times I feel like drivers, when they're at their peak, they have a great opportunity in a great car, and then once they just hop around teams, they think the grass is greener on the other side, and it always isn't like that, right? And they never really get that opportunity that they originally had when they were at their peak. And so it's really cool to see Fernando Alonso towards the end of his career get an opportunity with Aston Martin and be able to be in the mix. And it seems like they'll be able to compete week in and week out. And so that was just super cool to see. And I think the best part of the race for me personally was seeing Alonso carve through the field and work his way through Mercedes and work his way through Ferrari. And so if I had to pick a driver of the race, it would definitely be him. And even props to Stroll as well. I feel like just Aston Martin in general really performed today and exceeded my expectations for them, as I never really had them on my radar. And so to finish up, let's go ahead and look at the results. And so you guys can see, of course, we have Red Bull did amazing. We talked about them. Ferrari, they were a little bit down, had the yellow situation with Leclerc in the engine issue. So they definitely hoped for more. I feel like Mercedes was still up there, but I think generally they would probably tell you that they wanted more out of their cars. AlphaTauri, kind of meh. Alfa Romeo, Bottas was up 4 spots. I think he showed pretty well. But then we have Alpine. I think that Gasly did an amazing job, plus 11 spots. Definitely could be in the discussion for driver of the race if you were to, you can make an argument for him. And then I would say that Ocon kind of didn't do that hot. He had a penalty early on with his starting position. He was out of position. And then I think he served another penalty as well for some reason. As we mentioned, Aston Martin did a great job today. McLaren, of course, down day, as we mentioned, right? And then Haas, I think, could definitely have done better. They were kind of meh, kind of a non-factor. But now that we've looked at the results, let's kind of get into a little bit further on the things I'm doing to get more into F1. For one of the most popular racing series in the world, there's not very much anywhere. You go to like a common store that should have sporting stuff, and they don't have anything. Maybe like a Lego thing or two, but it's disappointing. Don't mind us. We're just smelling candles. I don't like that one. It's gotta smell like race day, you know? I was thinking they need to make like a racing fuel candle. I think it'd sell pretty well. What do you think? This one smells pretty good. Let me know if you're trying to partner with me on that project. A racing fuel candle. It'd work. There's something. Aston Martin. Very cool. Not a huge Lego guy, but I may have to do this at some point in time. But the only F1 thing I'm seeing so far. Pretty cool. I'm in remote control cars. And they don't even have a Formula One remote control car. And that's really sad. I mean, what are we doing? Like, what are we doing, guys? It's really silly. Really, really silly. Maybe I'm missing something. But I'm even in the Hot Wheels section. And I don't see a single Formula One Hot Wheel set or anything. Like, if I was doing Formula One, I'd have like a F1 pack or something, you know? But there's nothing. It's really crazy. I'm just surprised, like really surprised. Maybe I'm missing it. I don't know. I have no idea. It's very interesting. Very, very silly. Funko Pops. They definitely have a Formula One Funko Pops somewhere. They have to, but I don't see one here. So I'm trying to get some merch and they're making it really hard on me. Really, really hard. What am I gonna do? All right, so I am back from the store, and unfortunately, I came up empty-handed. Though I did see the Lego set that was pretty much all I saw regarding Formula 1. And so if you want to see me open Legos in the future, Formula 1 Legos, and build a set or something, let me know. But for the time being, I was just going to hold off on that. I was really looking for a jersey, and so I may have to look at a bigger mall by me, and I may do that in the next couple weeks. Or at the end of the day, I may have to do it online. And that's just so lame. I want to have like the feeling of going and seeing all the jerseys, and maybe have to look at a mall. But that's it for today. That's the video, and so hopefully you guys enjoyed my Bahrain Grand Prix video, and hopefully you guys tune in to a couple weeks from now. We have the next Formula 1 race, and I actually included a couple bloopers as well coming in after this. But if you liked the video, subscribe, like, that would give me a lot of support, and comment kind of what you thought of the video and what you thought of the race. Thanks again, guys. Peace.
Alright.
So I wanted to sit you guys down here, just let you know that I'm going to be... I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You guys look so funny. It's going to be...
Really excited with this new product we have today.
Alright, stop. Make it quick. So... So I'm sitting you guys down here to...
So you can't. I think the first one's
No.
Alright, look, put your face,
Ryan.
I can cut it,
Come on.
It's you who keeps looking
I know,
at him.
I know. So
I'm not looking at you.
I know. Okay. 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 Stop laughing. Turn towards the camera. Stop laughing. Come on. My phone doesn't have enough battery and memory for this.